Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lexi and today we're doing another pick a card. Today's pick a card is a very exciting and special video because we are doing an 8-way collaboration with 7 very amazing souls, and we are going to be bringing through messages from the 8 elements. So as you can see in the title, on this channel I'm going to be bringing through messages from the earth element. Over on Psychic Siren Tarot, Samantha is going to be bringing through messages from Spirit and Space. Over on 9 3/4, Carissa is going to be bringing through messages from Air. Over on the Sea Owl, Ali is going to be bringing through messages from Water. Over on Chemistry with Kismet Tarot, Monica is going to be bringing through messages from Wind. Over on the Spiritualistic channel, Colleen's going to be bringing through messages from Wood. Over on Soulslide Star, Esther Luca is going to be bringing through messages from Fire. And over on Goddess of the Unknown, Tay is going to be bringing through messages from the Metal element. So all of the elements are accounted for by some of my favorite readers over here on YouTube. So what I'm going to do is have all of the elements in the description box with each reader and their video, so you guys can choose whether you want to watch them all today, or if you want to save some for later, or if you just want to see which element you're drawn to. I'll have all of the elements in the description box and all of the videos in the description box for you guys to choose. But over on here we're going to be bringing through messages from Earth, which I'm really excited to do. Before I get into picking the piles, I just want to say a really big shout out to everyone that's doing this collaboration with me, and shout out to Colleen from Spiritualistic for hosting this and bringing us all together. If you haven't already subscribed or watched any of these beautiful readers, I would definitely usher you over there and just to check them all out, because I think they're such beautiful souls. They bring through such beautiful wisdom. They're such beautiful lights, and I'm just really grateful to be aligned with them all and be bringing this collaboration to you. It just, I don't know, I feel really good about this, and I just feel really happy that I'm able to connect and work with what feels like my soul tribe. So I'm just really grateful that this is happening. So yeah, let's get into your piles. So pile number 1, we have the Desert Rose, the Sand Rose. Pile number 2, we have the Smoky Quartz. In pile 3, we have the Twig. So see which object you are drawn to. The timestamps are going to be in the description box as usual, and I will see you guys at your timestamp. Hey pile 1, welcome to your reading. So we are taking a look at what messages the earth element has for you right now. So you guys chose the Desert Sand Rose. I'm going to start with tarot, and then we're going to move on to your oracle cards. So let's get in. Just getting comfortable. Pile number 1, please, spirit guides, tap me into the collective of my pile number 1s. Tap me into, as I begin, I'm being told for you guys, and this might not resonate for everyone, but it's just something coming through. Pay attention to things that you may be losing right now. I keep being shown somebody with like a necklace, and it keeps breaking. Like, it's like, you know, the hook on the back of the necklace, it's not going on properly. I keep being shown something like that. You're being asked to cleanse it. Like, I'm being shown somebody with like a clear quartz necklace, and it keeps breaking and falling off. There's a reference of that being cleansed, and they're telling me to mention, I've got to a point where when I lose things, I don't hectically go searching for them. I like to think of it as like, oh, it's being cleaned, it's being cleansed. And I'm being told to mention that to some of you guys, because there may be something that you've lost recently in the home, because they're referencing it's in the home, and they're saying if that's happening now, or if that may happen in the coming weeks, something's being cleansed, the energy is being cleansed, something's being removed that may have been causing a stagnancy, specifically with jewelry. I keep being referenced, so that's something that's come up, because I keep being shown the chain breaking. Yeah, so that was just a message that came through. Something needs to be cleansed, or something's being cleansed right now if you've lost something. Pile number one, please, spirit guides. Pile number one, tap me into the collective of my pile number ones. Tap me into the collective of my pile number ones. What message does the earth element have for my pile number ones? We have the Seven of Cups. Pile number, let me make sure that focuses. Pile number one, please, spirit guides. Messages from the earth element for my pile number ones. We have the Sun. I want to make sure that that in focus. Pile number one, please, spirit guides. Messages for my pile number ones from the earth element. We have the Three of Cups. And one more card, please, spirit guides. Pile number one. Pile number one. Messages for my pile number ones from the earth element. We have the Page of Air as well, which is the Page of Swords. Okay, and the back of the deck we have the Six of Wands, the Six of Fire. Have you guys been feeling okay, I keep being shown, like, let's just say like oak trees, and then I'm being shown like an apple tree just stuck in the middle, and it's almost like the rhythm is off, or the energy is off, or the frequency is off. And then I'm being shown like a bunch of roses, and then in the middle of those roses is a daffodil. And because obviously different flowers, different plants, different trees, they need a different environment to grow, they need a different environment to thrive. It's like, not only, it's like, let me give you one analogy so don't make it confusing. As to the roses and the daffodils, like, I don't know what daffodils need to thrive, but what I'm being shown is like a daffodil in all of these roses, and it's like I'm looking around at these roses and I don't feel like I'm enough, or I'm trying to become like the rose, or I'm trying to fit the mold of the rose when I'm a daffodil and I have a completely different purpose. And it's almost like I've made friends with all of these roses, but it's like I'm speaking rose language with them, and I've forgotten about, or I keep jumping out of my own essence, my daffodil language, to speak with all of these roses around me. And it's not that there's anything wrong with the daffodil, it's not that there's anything wrong with the roses, it's that they both need different environments to thrive. And there's a reference of you guys, because I don't know if some of you guys have been on your own for a bit, and I'm not talking about relationships here, I'm more talking about a tribe, like I'm more talking about friendships. I don't know if you guys have been alone for some time, or you've maybe been growing and evolving, and maybe you've grown out of certain friends, maybe you've been doing a lot of inner work and tapping into your inner currents so you can no longer fit certain molds. Whatever the case, I keep being told that your tribe is coming, but there's a reference of you holding your frequency and doing your own thing, because there's a reference of you guys maybe, and this could have come from childhood, but I see you guys almost jump into everybody else's currents, just because you can. Like, I think that you guys are quite multidimensional. I think that you guys have been through a lot and gone through a lot of phases and gone through a lot of evolutions. But I also think that you guys are my pile that do a lot of work, you know what I mean? And it's quite interesting. I've only now realized you guys chose the desert rose. I'm now looking at it, which is quite funny. And even when you think of like anything that grows in the desert, like cactuses, they need a different environment to that of like a fern that needs, you know, a lot more water and, you know, something else to thrive. I just keep being shown you guys constantly in the past tailoring yourself to what other people like to do, what the people around you like to do. And right now you're being called to stand in what you like and move to your own rhythm, and not be ashamed of like the way you'd like to move. You know, it could be that everyone around you is wanting to move a little bit more fast paced and you're wanting to move slow, and maybe you're feeling a little bit insecure of that. Like, what if people think that I'm boring, or what if people think that I'm, you know, not as outgoing? And Miley Cyrus just dropped a song, it's called Used to Be Young, and that song is kind of coming to mind because I just feel like you've grown so much, and what I'm actually being told for you guys is that your inner world, for the most part, especially in your earlier life, or it could have been in your teen life, it's been very like tumultuous. I think that naturally you're very soft, and I think naturally you move very slow. You're naturally in your core essence in a more divine feminine essence, whereas I feel like for a lot of your life, or at least the past couple of years, life's kind of been like a whirlwind, like a roller coaster, and you've been moving at a different pace, and I'm being shown that now you're being called kind of like back home and to sit in your more natural essence, and really fall into that. And by doing that, it's almost like with that daffodil falling into its natural essence, it then gets taken to, you know, the patch where all the other daffodils are, and it's able to grow there. Because I think that I almost feel like you're yearning, or your soul's yearning for something a lot more slower pace. I want to say slower pace. I don't mean, you know, moving slow and just chilling out and doing nothing. But I feel like you're somebody that likes to be, oh, this is who you are at your core. I feel like you're somebody that likes to be incredibly present. I also think that you're somebody that likes to do a lot of things, like go out, see the world, do whatever it is that lights you up. But I almost feel like there may have been people around you that I keep seeing people around you and they're like moving fast paced, or they're in a hurry, or they're wanting to do a lot of things that aren't aligning with you. And I think for a long time you kind of just went with it, whereas now you're being called to assert yourself and really dig your roots right into the ground and move at a pace that's more beneficial to you. Because in doing that, we have the sunflowers here. I see you guys really blooming, because what I was being shown is like for a plant to really evolve and grow and thrive, it needs the right conditions. So when a plant isn't thriving, it's like we take a look and we go, okay, does this need sunlight? Does this need more water? And if you have a lot of plants, you know, in your home, you'll know there'll be certain plants that are super dramatic and they'll wither if they don't get an ounce of sunlight, and then you'll have other plants that can go ages without sunlight. It's just water that they need. And I feel like right now you're being really called to listen to your internal world and listen to your inner world, and really root down and lay the map of what it is you like, and what your internal rhythm is, and what it is that waters you, and what it is that feeds you, what is your sunlight, what is your water, and what are the conditions that make you thrive. Because when we are in the conditions that make us thrive, new aspects of our personality comes out. Whereas if we're in situations where we feel uncomfortable, or we don't connect, or it's going against our own rhythm, we don't show up as the best version of ourselves a lot of the time. We can hide in our shell. We can kind of stand back because it's not familiar to us. And yes, we want to take risks, and yes, we want to jump out of our own energy and try something different. But I think that you've done that a lot, and I think you tailored yourself to other people's experiences so that you do what they like. But I keep wanting to question you, like, what do you like? What do you want to do? And I keep being shown you guys doing that. And if people don't want to do that with you, I'm being called for you to do that yourself, because then the right people, and not only is it like physically you turn up to something for yourself and you're going to meet new people that like the same thing you're doing because they're there for the same reason, but also energetically you hold in a frequency of, hey universe, this is my frequency, this is what I like to do, and this is what I do. Naturally your tribe's going to come. I read something the other day, and it was about, I think it was about wasps, and it was like something to do with a wasp. When a wasp lets off a hormone, it signals, I think it's like a hormone of like being under attack, I think that's what it was. And when it does that, a bunch of other wasps come, because they listen to the hormone and they listen to that, if we look at it from a spiritual perspective, that frequency, and they go and they come to the rescue of that other wasp. And I love how the earth element is giving me naturistic analogies. That's lovely. But when you set up that frequency and you set up that energy, and you're like, you know what, I like to be an early bird, you know, and I like to wake up early and watch the sunrise, and I like to do this and I like to do that, it sends out that frequency, and more people that are like you align with you. And it's not to say we all have to be the same as each other, but there's an internal rhythm that you have that I feel like a lot of your life maybe you've been disconnected from, and you doing a lot of your beautiful inner work that you've been doing, you're now rooting yourself back in, which means that I kind of feel like there may be people around you that are wanting you to move at a pace that's right for them, or you may feel the pressure to keep people in your life by doing things that they like to do, and I feel like it's things that you don't want to do. It goes against what you naturally align with inside, you know. And that's where I'm calling you guys to like put your foot down and put that boundary down and really root yourself in, and again, really listen to what it is. Really look at what it is that helps you thrive, what makes you feel good, and doing more of that. I would definitely call you guys to get like a little notebook or something and write down all that it is that makes you feel $1 million, and all that it is that makes you feel soothed, and what makes you feel happy, and really take note of when you thrive and why you're thriving. What is it that's making you thrive? What is it that's making you grow? What is it that's making you want to pop out your shell and present yourself to the world? Like, what is it? And then maybe take a look at times where you crawl back into your shell and you feel discomfort, and really take a look at, is it, you know, something I need to work on, or is it just because it doesn't align with me? You know, you could be very connected to spirit, and drinking alcohol just doesn't align with you because it makes you feel a certain way and you just don't want to do that anymore. Maybe you used to do it a lot before and you don't need to do that anymore. Or maybe you used to just rush about all the time, you know, and tailor yourself to like a certain frequency within like work, or a certain frequency with people around you, and you weren't really taking anything in. Whereas now you're wanting to slowly move, take things in, and be present. You're really being called to look at that and see what goes against your current and what goes with your current. What has you wither, you know, like the plant withering, and what has you thrive. That's what you're being called to take a look at right now. And you can also tailor that in regards to foods you're eating, content you're digesting. I would say to take a look at that too, but I'm really focused on environments, like work environments or friendships or the people around you, and how they're wanting you to show up, because maybe that's not how I think you've tailored yourself to people for so long. There's a different version of you emerging, and if you were to just keep going, like if you were just, I'm being shown a really tall sunflower, like the sun here. If you were just to keep staying at a certain level, you wouldn't reach the heights that the sunflower is supposed to reach. And that's why you're being called to grow, because when you grow more, you'll be at eye level with all the other sunflowers, you know? And it's not that you're better than anyone else. We're talking about frequencies. Everybody has different frequencies. Even in, you know, YouTube and tarot, you'll see some readers and they'll, like myself, I'll speak fast and I'll channel a lot, and it's because I'm in like a very like high pitched frequency, like a very like fae-like frequency, whereas you'll see some other readers and they'll speak a lot slower, and it's because they're in a very earthy frequency. They're in a very I usually connect that with like the stone people, you know, a very grounded frequency, and they're bringing that beautiful frequency from the earth and up. And you'll also see people change, because we change our frequencies too, and I feel like you are changing yours, and I feel like you're aligning with your true nature, because you're rooting yourself in, and I think that's very beautiful. But don't feel the pressure to then cut off the stem and try and join what it is you were doing before. You know, try and join the roses again just because you want to hold on to them. You can still hold on to them by being your authentic self, you know what I mean, and create a bridge that way. But I keep being shown, you guys almost feeling the pressure that you need to be pushing yourself, or being in a certain frequency, or aligning with and doing things that don't align with your inner current just to keep people around, and you don't need to do that. And if people do fall away, it's because they're not meant for this version of you, and there'll be other energies that come in to take that place, because energy is never lost, it's transmuted. That's really what I'm picking up with these cards really strongly. I'm going to pull some oracle cards as well. Pile number 1. Messages from the earth element for my pile number 1s, please. Messages from the earth element for my pile number 1s. And it's okay to not know what makes you thrive yet. That's the beautiful thing of getting to know ourselves in the healing journey. When we start to root ourselves into our body, there's a lot of things that come up, you know, a lot of healing that can come up, a lot of things we didn't realize need to come out and be purged. But what's beautiful about that on the other side of it, because there's always a double-edged sword with everything, is we get to see what our soul truly desires in this life, and we get to look at life through, you know, the set of eyes where we are fully rooted into the physical body in regards to our humanness, and we get to understand our own inner currents, and we get to know ourselves deeply. We get to know ourselves on a really beautiful level, and I feel like that's where you're at. And it's okay if you don't know what makes you thrive yet, because just getting a little notebook and really taking a look at what makes me feel good, and how do I, you know, what type of morning routine makes me feel good, what night routine makes me feel good, what movies make me feel good, you know, and really listening to that and tailoring who you are. You'll know what is in your frequency and what's in your current and what isn't, you know, and what goes against it. You know, I used to watch horror movies all the time, and like, you know, dark like documentaries all the time, and I can't do that anymore, you know. And there's nothing against it, my sister watches them all the time, and there's nothing against it at all. I just can't, I don't know what it is, it just goes against my energy, and it's just not something that I like anymore. It just doesn't register with me anymore. And I think maybe as well because I've done so much inner work and done so much shadow work and seen a lot of darkness, it's like, okay, I need the light now. I need things, and I'm always dwelling in the subconscious. It's like I need things that activate that part of me, and I see a switch there. So that's what I'm being told. You guys listen to your currency, in a current, not currency. Listen to your inner current and see what lights you up and what makes you feel $1 million and what helps you grow, you know. Pile number 1, messages from the earth element. We have serendipity. I'm going to put 3 of them down. Messages from the earth element for my pile number 1s. We have to be fair. Yeah, and I think it's balancing it out, because you've always tailored yourself around others, you know what I mean? Yes, we balance and we align with people that are different with us and maybe with different frequencies, and we can balance ourselves out. But I think for you guys, I think you've always been for what other people may like. You may have in earlier life gone through situations where you felt the need to please people, and I think it may come maybe from childhood, where you might have had a parent that was really hard on you, or you may have had a parent that you had to walk on eggshells with, or you maybe had a parent that you had to self-sacrifice for. That could be it. Or through life, I see you guys tailoring yourself to what other people need to find joy and find happiness without understanding your own needs. And I think doing that inner work, you're understanding your own needs. You've gotten to know your needs, and you're starting to get to know your needs, and you're walking that path. So it's like, now it's your turn. Now it's your time to maybe be a little bit selfish and put your foot down and say, I like to do this, I like to do that, I like to do that. And just not feel the pressure of having to comply with what everyone else wants to do. Because your journey is going to be different. Because I see you almost feeling out of your depths and like around other people, and I see some of you guys maybe feeling like, why, I'm trying to put this, you may not have verbalized it yet because I'm having trouble putting it into words. It's a feeling of like, I don't feel like I'm showing up as my best self, and I'm not feeling seen around the people I should feel seen by. Like, I have people around me and I don't feel like I'm being seen, and I'm still feeling like I need to wear a mask. I'm still feeling like I need to, you know, even after doing work, I'm still feeling like I need to wear a mask. I'm still feeling like I can't really put my best foot forward. And it's almost like, because it's not your frequency that you're in, so you're still tailoring yourself, you know? And that's where you're being called into that divine feminine energy and just aligning with the frequency that's right for you, because then you're showing up as yourself. Then you're aligning with that frequency, and, you know, you're not having to tailor yourself. And maybe you could do even people around you a little bit of good to come into your world and see your, you know, that side of you, because I feel like sometimes you may feel a bit misunderstood, or that people don't truly see you. And I think it's because I keep being shown somebody going into a forest, like into a little tree, you know what I mean? And this is my little house, and it's almost like I'm bringing people here but they don't normally come here. And maybe they want to. Maybe people want to see that side of you. Maybe people want to see that side of you. Maybe people would love that side of you. But maybe you've always felt like your true nature wasn't something that people wanted to see. That's why you know, aligned with what other people wanted. But you'd be surprised how many people want to see that authentic side of you. And even if people don't fully align with it, that's okay too, because you'll find other people that resonate with that frequency too. One final card, please, Spirit Guides. We have co-create. I want to reference as well that Spirit, Source, the Universe, God, whichever you know, look at it, whichever lens you look at that, you know, creative source from, it's always working with us. It's never working against us. And if you have been feeling lonely, or if you find you're feeling lonely over the next coming weeks, because I see, and I see this as like a beginning of a journey you're walking on. If you do find that you're feeling lonely, call out to your spirit guides, call out to the universe, God, source, tap into that and ask that you align with the frequency of your soul tribe for them to come in. Because spirit is always working with you. And then it's like when that call picks up, there's a reference of answering the call. So whenever we call out that we want to align with something, when everything transpires to make it happen, we'll usually get invited somewhere out of nowhere. We might not even want to go, or we might be called to head out somewhere out of our comfort zone and we don't understand where we're going, you know, like we might have like a flat tire and then we need to call someone. And all these little serendipitous moments, they're these little bridges that the universe or our higher selves have co-created to take us to where we need to go, or to meet people that we need to meet. So answer that little call when it comes, pile number one. That's something that I'm being told to say. Yeah. And you're being called with the back of the deck into that feminine energy. I feel like you're being called into, with the yin energy, into that energy of receiving and just falling back and aligning with, you know, your needs and what you want and standing true in that. Yeah, because then I'm being shown a plant and it's getting the right amount of sunlight and the right amount of water and it's thriving. And then I'm hearing, that's all the plant needed to thrive. Yeah. And like I was saying about the serendipitous moments, we have serendipity here. So your soul tribe's coming in, but it was always going to come in when you aligned with your true frequency inwardly. And that's always the journey to come back to and rooting ourselves back in. And yeah, I see a lot of shifts. I would say over the next year, you're aligning with a frequency. So I would say everything for you guys right now, if everything's feeling a little bit up in the air, the way I like to describe it is like cement that hasn't set yet. You know, when you have the cement that's gone down but it hasn't fully set, that is kind of what your frequency and energy feels like to me right now, meaning that there's probably a lot of little shifts, whether they're externally or internally, that are going to be happening over the next year that really, while that cement kind of sits. So you may feel like you're a little bit hanging in the wind over the next year. I say the next year because a year on like the earthly plane is like nothing in spirit and any other realms, and that's usually what it will take for like a shift kind of to come in sometimes. But I feel like the more you're inquiring about yourself and aligning with that frequency, it's like things are setting in stone. Pathways are setting in stone. It's like cement. And I think you were always going to come back to this place. I think this was always the point, to really tap into your true nature, because that's when people align with you. But I see over the next year, like later on after that as well, like connections, significant people coming in that were meant to come in, you know, your fallow daffodils basically. I see them coming in and I see you aligning with that, and there's a lot of thriving, and I see people that look like you coming in around you, because again, it's a frequency shift. That's what I see, pile number one. So that is what I have for you guys. I really hope that you enjoyed the reading. Hit the thumbs up and comment down below if you did. I'm sending you guys all of my love. I hope you have a beautiful morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in my next video. So thank you guys for watching. Hey pal 2, welcome to your reading. So we are taking a look at what messages the earth element has for you right now. So you guys chose the smoky quartz. I'm going to start with tarot and then we're going to move on to your oracle card. So let's get in. So pile number 2, please spirit guides. Pile number 2, tap me into the collective of my pile number 2s. Tap me into my smoky quartz pile, my pile number 2. I keep being shown Dorothy's red like ruby slippers, and she's like, there's no place like home, and she's like tapping her feet to go home. That's what I was just shown. I don't know why. I don't know what that's going to do with it yet, but that's what I was shown. Pile number 2. We've got 2 cards that drop together. We have the 5 of Wands and we have the 9 of Wands as well. 5 of Wands, 9 of Wands. Pile number 2. I'm hearing that One Direction song, Baby You're Perfect, to me. I don't know the lyrics, but I know they sing Baby You're Perfect to me. I know that much. We have the 4 of Cups, which is the 4 of Water. Pile number... Have you had a lot of people throughout your life try and make you feel bad for like things that you like to do? Maybe the way you were raised, maybe your upbringing, maybe books you like to read, music you like to listen to, TV shows you like to listen to. Maybe it was the way you like to present yourself. Have you always found that people have like criticized that or put you down? Are you... There's almost this feeling as well as like maybe feeling sometimes ashamed of like what I had or what I didn't have growing up, or this person had way more than me and I feel ashamed of this, or this person had it easy and I didn't, and I feel ashamed of maybe what I've had to go through or how I was raised. It's almost like I don't feel complete and I feel inadequate because of what people around me seem to have and I don't. You know, and it could be as simple as like somebody feeling naturally very confident and you don't. But it could also be because there's almost this feeling of like the earthy realm, so like assets, and like I don't have, you know, this much money, or I didn't have this growing up and I didn't get to do this. So it's almost like I feel inadequate that I don't have what maybe people around me have. And it isn't coming from now, because I don't even feel like maybe on the surface level you would even think that now, but I feel like that's something you may have dealt with in childhood, which is still lingering in your subconscious wound, that I think is coming up to the surface for you guys to look at. Because I keep being shown somebody trying to run away, you know, like Elsa from Frozen, and she like runs away. I can't remember the full, because I haven't watched Frozen in so long, I can't actually remember why she ran away. So if you want to let me know down in the comments, because it could even pertain to the reading. But I think her sister goes and gets her, and you know, she sings the Kingdom of Isolation and it looks like I'm the queen. I know she sings that, but I keep being shown somebody like running away from who I felt ashamed of, and almost like looking at things I've been through like, this was, you know, I can't be proud of this, or this wasn't good, or this is like a blockage, and I see somebody like running away, and then almost like adapting to become something completely different, because maybe that's the environment that you had to be in at the time. But I keep being shown like that version of yourself kind of calling out, like being the Anna looking for Elsa, like come back, you know, because you know when Anna like knocks on the window and she's like, do you want to build a snowman, and Elsa's like, go away Anna, and she's like, okay, bye, and she's like, we used to be best buddies and now we're not, sort of thing. That's almost like a feeling I'm getting of the inner child, or maybe even the inner teenager, like feeling a little bit like I wasn't good enough. Like I wasn't good enough, so I had to adapt to something else. And I think there was some very beautiful traits and beautiful parts of maybe the way you were raised, or I don't know why I feel emotional, things that maybe you didn't see the light in at the time. Maybe people taught you that there was no light there, so you kind of abandoned it. And I feel like those were beautiful parts of you, and I feel like you may have taught yourself this isn't this isn't good. This isn't a part of me that I need to express. This is a part of me I need to suppress. And that's why I see someone running, which I keep being shown Elsa, and then Anna's like the inner child or the inner teenager trying to find Elsa and bring her back. So it's like, don't cut me off, don't lose me, like hold on to me, sort of thing. That's how it's coming through. And I want to say, when I started, because I shuffled the cards a bit before I started, and one of my cards fell behind the radiator. And basically about 2 months ago, I was doing a reading with a completely different set of cards, and I lost the card. I couldn't find it, and I said in the reading, I'm not going to bother looking for it because I can't see it, and I'm not going to interrupt the reading. If I need it, it'll show up. I'm sure it'll show up at the right time. And right before this reading, and you're probably not going to believe me, but this card was the card that I lost and couldn't find. And when I was shuffling, one of the cards fell on top of it, and I was like, oh my god, this is the card I lost. And I thought, that's interesting, maybe it has something to do with pile 2. And it literally says children, unconditional love, purity, innocence, and nurturing. So I feel like that may be like a fragmented piece of your inner child or your inner teenager that's like almost wanting you to embrace them, and wanting you to embrace, like, even if you didn't have the most like conventional upbringing, or even if you weren't the most like pristine person in the world, who is, like, this version of you is almost asking you to allow it to shine. Like, don't hide me away. Why are you hiding me away? Because it's almost like, am I not worthy? Am I not good enough? And I feel like you were taught that that version of you should be hid, and it's coming up and resurfacing, because I almost feel like that might be a little bit of like a piece of a puzzle to really feeling whole and really feeling like you've come back to yourself. Because when we learn to self-love, and it's a journey, but we learn to love every part of ourselves, and you know, all parts of us were, you know, beautiful in their own way, and we were just doing what we needed to survive at that time. And you're being called to pull a version of yourself out that maybe you felt the need to hide away, because even if it's a version of yourself that was really angry and dealing with anger needs to be expressed. When anger comes up, it's the psyche's way of expressing a feeling, or the soul's way of expressing a feeling of disrespect, feeling disrespected, you know what I mean? And we have to allow that to come out. And I almost feel like there's a version of you coming through that's connected to your inner child or inner teenager that has something to say and wants to come out. And I feel like they might even be able to give guidance, or might even be like a part of you that was needed on this journey that you're on now, and helping you reclaim all that you are and feel confident in all that you are. Yeah, let me get one more card from Tarot, and then I'll continue channeling. Pile number... Because I keep wanting to tell you there's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, even if it's something you've been through and it was really heavy, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. I feel like you may carry a burden of... I'm being shown experiences, but experiences that you couldn't even help. Like experiences where you were like a victim, or experiences where you were just, you know, a victim to the circumstance. Like you were just the jellyfish being swept ashore. Like it just happened. But I almost feel like you're not only taking on the burden of what you were experiencing, but I feel like you're taking on the burden of maybe people that had done something to you or projected onto you. I feel like you're taking on the burden of maybe parents, and what happened there. And then I also feel like you're taking the burden on other people's projections, and even people's like own guilt of projecting onto you. Like I see you almost taking all of it on and holding on to it. And I feel like this version of you is coming through to be like, let it go. Oh my god, Frozen, let it go. Oh my god, wow. I would say your inner child might be calling you to watch Frozen, because I think there may be a message there. I can't tell you much because I honestly don't remember much other than there's a cute little snowman called Olaf, and I remember the song, and I remember that original scene. Maybe give Frozen a watch. I feel like there may be answers there. Maybe the song Let It Go, there may be answers there. I wish I could elaborate, but I can't remember much of the story. But there's a part of you that's almost being called back. Pile number 2. And that's why there was the red rubies. There's no place like home. Because I feel like you may have felt like you needed to abandon parts of your childhood or parts of home. you know? I feel like there's parts of you that felt like you had to abandon certain parts of you. Or maybe to not claim certain parts of you. Maybe you've not wanted to claim certain parts of your story. Or you've like looked at them in like a really dark way. And it's almost like you're taking your power back by claiming it. Like, yeah, this happened, you know? This happened and I got through this. Or even claiming it in the sense of, that doesn't define me. That was just something that happened. That's not who I am at my core. I'm much more than that, you know? That's another message coming through. Pile number 2. Messages from the earth element for my pile number 2s. We have the 8 of water as well, which is the 8 of cups. Yeah, it's almost like, because what I see for you guys is right now you are working on clearing your solar plexus or working on activating your solar plexus. That's what I'm being shown, which is why we have the smoky quartz here, because I feel like there's a purge going on, and I keep being shown somebody like kicking their foot into the dirt and all of the negative energy is going into the soil, and you know, Mother Gaia is kind of like cleansing it, but it's connected to the solar plexus and just something that there's a part of you that's still feeling very conflicted on. And I feel like it's having you show up not feeling worthy of certain things, or not feeling like you are worthy to receive, you know, certain relationships or certain connections. I'll try and think, like I used to, it's not even when I was younger, like I used to always kind of feel like this feeling of, because I grew up and I didn't have a lot of money and a lot went on, I used to feel like people that had money or people that had more beautiful experiences, it's like I didn't fit in with them and I couldn't be around them, and I wasn't worthy to be around them because it's like my story isn't like yours and I don't fit here, sort of thing. That's how I used to feel a lot of the time. And I almost, even when I'd make friends, I'd be, you know, talking to people, I'd almost block off from it because it's like, oh well, you have, you know, a nice family set and now you have a lot of money, and it's like I don't have that and I can't almost give that back to you, and you can't experience that through me, so I'm not worthy of this. I used to sometimes feel that way in a way of like looking at relationships and friendships. So I see something similar with you guys, and I see it more as well in like work scenarios, or just in your maybe way of looking at money, like or maybe feeling like you had to cut off versions of yourself in order to align with something that you wanted, you know, in order to align with certain relationships, certain frequencies being brought in for you spiritually, or certain how do I make this make sense? How do I put this in the words? Some of you may have felt like, because I see a lot of you guys maybe learning a lot of lessons spiritually through hard lessons. I see some of you guys learning a lot of lessons spiritually through like clearing karma and going through a lot of heaviness and having to really understand your depth. And then I see you guys almost like connecting to spirituality and feeling like you're not good enough because you may have gone through situations that people deem quote unquote negative, but that's where you learned your wisdom. That's where you learned your depth. That's where you learned all of that. That's actually a tool now that you can use, and that's how you connected to spirit in the first place. You know what I mean? You went into the subconscious, you dealt with these emotions that people might not have even, you know, dreamed of, that are like picking up certain things that we call love and light, and you've dealt with it, you've come out of it unscathed, and now you're connecting with spirit. Like, that's beautiful. You don't have to align with something outside of yourself that you feel is outside of yourself and become it, and then get rid of what you were, because all of what you were is creating what you are. So there's something in regards to whatever it is you're looking at that makes you feel not worthy, or I'm not worthy for this, I'm not worthy for that, I can't have this, I can't have that, I'm not good enough. That's what's being targeted and purged and cleared right now. And there's a version of you from childhood that kind of has a message. And I would say, I never give homework, but there's almost a feeling of like, watch Frozen. There's a message there. That's what's coming up here. I really do feel like there's an answer there that I can't even give because I can't remember the story. 4 of water, 8 of cups. Yeah, you may as well maybe feeling like you've been stuck in a frequency, or there may be like one hook that's keeping you to like an old paradigm or an old way of looking at yourself, or an old way of looking at life that may be stopping you from reaching certain heights, because it's like inwardly you're like, I'm not worthy of this. And I feel like, again, it's your inner child with this card popping up. I feel like it's your inner child that has an answer, because there's something I feel like you're running from. Because I was hearing Open Arms by SZA, and she sings running away from where I'm from, never can stay with no one. I think that's the lyrics, but that's what she says, running away from where I'm from. And that part of you's calling you to embrace them. We have the Messenger of Fire as well at the back of the deck. I feel like there's so much empowerment from this version of you, but you may have been caught, you know, it's almost like I'm looking away from it, I'm walking away from it. And I think embracing that, it's what's going to have you let go. You know, the song, Let It Go. I feel like that's what's going to have you let go and move on from this. Because it could even be like a perception that people have had on you that you've just taken on, like, that's me. And it's not you. It's not you at all. And that's where you're being called to, like, remove that. It's almost like that version of you is coming through, like, take the cloak off me. Because that's not who I am, and that's not who I was. And maybe you're looking at that version of you through the perception of what other people have projected onto it, and that wasn't you, you know? Maybe you were a teenager who had a lot going on, you know, and you were getting really frustrated, and, you know, you've had like parents, or you've had people like, oh, remember you in this phase? Yeah, you were really angry, like you were very this, you were very that, and you look back at that version of you and you're like, yeah, that version of me was reckless, and that version of me was this and that, and it's like that version of you is calling out to you like, no, listen to me, you need to like claim this, and you need to align with it. That's not how it was if you actually go back. And that's what's coming through here. So let's pull your oracle cards. Because there's something you're looking at as like tainted or reckless or like, and there's a purity with it, with this children card. There's like a purity there that you're being called to like embrace, you know? I feel like someone's almost put their lenses of how they look at people onto you, and you're looking at that phase or the way you were brought up or X, Y, and Z. You're looking at it through that phase. And that doesn't define who you are or what you went through. Pile number 2. We have To Be Fair. Pile number 2. Messages from the earth element. Because I feel like this is a key to creating abundance on the physical plane on earth. By allowing it to come in, because it's like, I claim it because it's mine. Like, I claim it because I'm allowed to. Whereas there's almost like a subconscious feeling of like, oh, I don't think I deserve that. Or who am I to grab that? And abundance is your birthright. That's the strong message coming through. Pile number 2, please, spirit guides. Pile number 2. We have chaos and conflict. And one more card, please, spirit guides. Pile number 2. We have regeneration. And the back of the deck you have a change in the wind. Yeah. I feel like this version of you has been calling out to you for some time. I feel like this version of you has almost like been waiting. I keep being shown like somebody waving in the air. I kind of drawing you in and bringing you back to, again, that's why I'm being shown Dorothy with the ruby slippers, like no place like home, no place like home. And when you look at like the Dorothy movie as well, and they go down the yellow brick road, like the Tin Man, quote unquote, didn't have a brain and he didn't feel good enough, and the lion didn't have courage, and you know, he didn't feel good enough, and the scarecrow, oh no, wait, it was a scarecrow that didn't have the brain. The Tin Man didn't have a heart, or so he thought. And I can't remember because I haven't watched like Wizard of Oz in a really long time, but I'm sure by the time they get to the end of the yellow brick road, I think it's like, actually the Tin Man did have a brain, and actually the lion did have courage, you know what I mean, because he walked the yellow brick road. So there's a feeling of that. It's like you're not feeling good enough, you don't feel like you have something inside of you, but it's something you've always had within you, but you're looking at it through a different lens. Like, you were always courageous, you always had a brain, you always had a heart. That version of you always had that, and it's almost like that version of you, that inner child, that teenage self, is trying to show you that. And I think that's the journey you've had to walk, like the yellow brick road. I think that's the journey that you've had to go down, to kind of look at this part of you with a different set of eyes, because it's almost like I see this version of you rearing its head and popping out, and I'm not getting a significant explanation for that because I feel like it's going to be different for all of you guys. But think of a version of you, think of your whole life, and think of all the versions of you that got you to where you are, and think of one version of you, if I said go back to that, you wouldn't want to. Think of that version of you. Think of that version of you where you kind of are like, oh, I don't like that version of me. I don't like to think of that time period. Why don't you? And why don't you like that version of you? And how are you looking at that version of you? Because that version of you was doing all that they needed to survive then. That version of you could have even been in survivor mode. And that version of you was doing the best that they could with the knowledge that they had. And there's almost a feeling of giving it grace. But also don't forget about me. Like there's this feeling of don't forget about me. Don't lose me. Like that's a strong message coming through. I'm hearing that song from the Breakfast Club, Don't You Forget About Me, as I walk on by. That's what I'm hearing. Because I feel like, especially with the 5 of Wands there, we have chaos and conflict in the middle, is something you're like blocking out or like putting a fence up at. Like, no, I don't want to embody this. But I feel like embodying it and empowering it and owning it is going to create this regeneration within you, which is going to have you bloom and be like, yeah, that's a version of me, and you know what I mean? Love that version of me. That version of me got me here, 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 and here, you know? And I think there's going to be a lot of beauty in that, and I think there's going to be a lot of homecoming. So I would definitely say to watch Frozen, because I really feel like there's a message there for some of you guys. And that's the message that I have for you guys. It wasn't fully connected to necessarily the earthy element, but I think the earth element was more so bringing through, you deserve abundance. Abundance is your birthright, you know? The same way nature deserves to thrive, you deserve abundance. And don't forget your roots, I think, is more so the message here. So pile 2, that is what I have for you guys. I really hope that you enjoyed the reading. Hit the thumbs up and comment down below if you did. I'm sending you guys all of my love, and I hope you have a beautiful morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching. So hopefully I'll see you guys in my next video. So thank you guys for watching. Hey pile 3, welcome to your reading. So we are taking a look at what messages the earth element has for you right now. My brain completely lost everything that I was saying then. But you guys chose the twig. I'm gonna start with tarot, and then we'll move on to your oracle card. So let's get in. Pile number 3, please, spirit guides. Pile number 3. Tap me into the collective of my pile. There's a quote, and I'm probably quoting it completely incorrect, but it's something like, a fool knows everything, a wise person knows nothing. And I keep kind of feeling like, it's like I'm being shown a book, and I've read this book back, like from back to front. I know this book in and out, love this book. But just to say that the knowledge in this book is the only truth is discrediting every other book on the shelf, when I could see from many different lenses if I look from the books on the shelf. And that's a reference coming through here. Because there's almost something, it's like everything you think you know, it's like use it as a tool, but throw it in the air because you're about to learn something different. That's something that's kind of a reference coming through, because I keep being shown somebody's head kind of popping up through different realms and seeing things that almost in my brain I'm wanting to block off as like, that's not logically possible, or that's me being too woo-woo, you know, spiritually, or I've always said I didn't believe in this, but then it's like coming up and I can't kind of explain what I'm getting. Maybe I'm downloading from spirit and I'm getting stuff that I didn't believe in, but now it's coming through. Because there's a reference of, I feel like over the next, I want to say 2 years, I see the universe kind of expanding for you energetically, and it may be that you're going through an awakening of some sort, like a spiritual awakening. You may find new knowledge, or you may be learning through other people. But whatever it is that I see causing this expansion, I feel like everything that you did know is going to shift and change. I feel like everything that you did believe, I feel like it's going to flip on its head. And it's not that what you knew before or how you looked at life before is wrong. It's just that you reached all there is to know, and now you're seeing it from a different perspective. You know, like you'll see people and they'll be one side of the pendulum, and then you'll see people the other side of the pendulum, and it's the yin yang. It's both sides of the same coin. Both are staring at the coin, but one person's seeing tails, one person's seeing heads. But the wise man kind of meets in the middle and knows that the heads and the tails are both right. And I think that's something, I feel like there's a pendulum swing and there's a shift, there's a change in the water in regards to maybe the way you even look at spirit, the way you look at life. And it doesn't mean that, again, what you knew before is wrong. You're looking at it from a different lens. It could be that you're going more woo-woo. It could be that you're going more up into the, you know, the trees and the heights and downloading more because you spend a lot of time rooting and grounding and looking at things from a more logical skeptical, that's the word, skeptical perspective. Whereas it could be that some of you guys have always been very woo-woo and very looking up in the clouds, and now you're choosing to be skeptical. Now you're choosing to go into the more logical side, because as far down as the roots go, that's how far the tree goes up, and vice versa. So I see a switch there, because with the branch here, it's like the branch isn't the trunks and it's not the roots, but it's also not what is being born from the tree. You know, it's not the apples coming from the tree, it's not the flowers coming from the tree. It's kind of what I like to look at, like the tunnel in between. And I think that may be where you're at right now, because I feel like you're learning to adapt to a different frequency, to see things from a more rounded perspective. So pile number, it's like the saying of, like, when we look at things all in love and light, we're not seeing the whole perspective because we're not seeing the darkness. But if we're looking only from darkness, then we don't, you know, and not seeing it from love and light, then we're not fully embracing that other side of ourselves. Like, we have to, that's the whole point of yin yang. And I think you're about to create a rounded perception. Or it could be that you went through a very light phase. Like, you could have, like, gone through a spiritual awakening where you were looking at things from a very light perspective, and love and light, and you were on that wave for a while, and then you went through a shadow phase and you were seeing everything from a very dark perspective and a deep perspective and seeing the darkness, and now you're learning to blend two worlds together. Both are true. One foot's in the light, one foot's in the dark, which maybe is why it's the branch in the tunnel, because it's like, I'm both, you know what I mean? Like, I'm both. If you were only looking at it from the root perspective, you'd only ever be a root. But if you're only looking at it through the fruit perspective, you'd only ever be the fruit. But you're all, and I think that's what you're learning to balance. Pile number 3. Hang on a minute, you can't fell off the floor. Am I using these? Yeah, we have the 8 of Wands and we have the 4 of Wands. Pile number 3, please, spirit guides, messages from the earth element for pile number 3. Sorry guys, there was a lot of noise outside then, so I made sure to stop so it didn't disrupt the reading, and I dropped the cards at the same time, so that was that. But we have the 8 of Water and the King of Water that dropped as well. 8 of Water and the King of Water. For a lot of you guys, I really do feel like you've already dipped your toe into both worlds and now you're learning to balance them both, which is going to take a minute. In regards to, like, frequencies, like, I keep being shown somebody going through a really light phase, connecting to spirit, seeing everything's very beautiful, and then going through the shadow phase, seeing everything and seeing the darkness and seeing all of that, understanding it, conquering it, and then creating a balance. And now the task is, like, how do we keep this afloat? Like, I'm being shown like a surfboard on water, and it's like, how much pressure do I put with my right foot like I would with my left foot? How do I balance these energies out? And I feel like, yes, it's going to take a minute, but I feel like that's the task ahead right now. You're learning how to really look at the world and really look up how you want to move in this world from a more rounded point of view. I feel like maybe you've always moved to extremes, and I feel like now you're learning to really balance that out. For others of you, it could be that you've always been in one extreme and now you're moving to the other, and now you're learning to adjust and evolve and shift your energies into a different frequency to see things from a different point of view. you know, you could have as well always been very connected to spirit and now you're choosing to be more logical, or you could have always been very logical and now you're choosing to connect with spirit. You've recently been going through a spiritual awakening, and that's where it's like the reference here is to surrender. I think that's more so the message from the earth element. Nothing's coming through too strong other than to surrender. Surrender to what it is you don't know, because we're never going to know everything, no matter how long we live, no matter what perspective that we try to look at it through, the lens of science, through the lens of spirit, through the lens of, you know, psychology and the psych. Like, no matter what it is, we're never going to understand and fully be able to comprehend why we're really here. You know what I mean? We can look at it from loads of different lenses to get a more, you know, a greater point of view, and I don't think just looking at it through one lens is going to give us all the answers. I think that they all meet in the middle, but there's still, even with that, a lot that we're not going to know until, you know, it's time to exit this realm and really see it from that higher perspective again. And I think that's what you're really being called to step into, is that energy of receiving, but that energy of the unknown, and just walking with your eyes closed for a minute and just seeing what comes through, and not rejecting it because the past frequency tells you that you know you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, you could have spent so much time in your shadow and doing inner work that anything more light and fluffy and just lighthearted, you may be looking at like, oh, that's not true, that's not, you know, that's just lighthearted. But we need lightheartedness, you know what I mean? We need that lightheartedness and that more sometimes fluffy perspective, you know what I mean? Or we need that really high frequency joy energy just as much as we need that, you know, deep, you know, intense energy, and looking at our subconscious and looking at our shadow. We need it all, and I think that's what you're going to be learning, and I think that that's the journey that you're going on. But you're definitely I keep being shown a book and you're being called to like chuck it in the air. Like, you've read it a million times, you know what it says. Now it's time to look at it from a different perspective and look at it from a different point of view. Reminds me of myself. Like, I used to never read books because I didn't trust the internet a lot, and I didn't have the internet growing up a lot. So my connection to spirit just came from me channeling and bringing things through. And I really didn't look at books. I really didn't look at anything like that, because it was just like, unless I was learning astrology or anything like that, of course. But I really just felt like I don't need to know it from other people's perspective. I only want to channel what comes through for me. And I like that I did that. And I think I needed to do that at the beginning so that I understood my own perception of what everything was. But once that solidified and it you know, settled in, I then was able to read other books and look at things from other people's perspective. And I was able to understand then, through what I learned from spirit in the first place, that other people's way of looking at it, no matter what way they look at it, it's not wrong, it's their version of it. It doesn't mean it's wrong if it differs from mine. They're looking at it from a different, you know, side. And I wouldn't have understood that if first I didn't just tap into spirit from source myself and connect to it myself and not have any rules, you know. I just kind of allowed it to flow through. That took me where I needed to go, in which I was able to go, you know what, I understand it enough to see that everyone's looking at it from their own perspective, and I'm gonna see what other people have to say. And that's when I was able to learn from other people too. And no side of it was wrong, it was just two ends of the spectrum. I think we can learn so much from each other and each other's perspective, but we can also learn so much from just our own. And, you know, we can learn to not rely on what other people have to say and tap into ourselves. And I had to learn that balance, and I feel like there's something coming up here where you're learning to have a balance or align with something that maybe before you looked at and was like, no, I don't agree with that, or I don't align with that. And I see you shifting into it and having to adapt and look at it through a different lens. So I see a lot of growth over the next 2 years. There's a big significant like mark on 2 years. I see a lot of growth, but I think it's, for a lot of you guys, it's an ascension you're going through, or you've like mastered a balance and now it's like kicking up a notch. You're going up, you know, through the realms and looking at it from an even higher perspective. Maybe looking at the lighter spectrum from an even higher perspective to then switch into the shadow, you know, and vice versa. But that's what I see for you guys. And I like on this twig, it has like the two branches connecting, you know. That branch is going to have a different perspective than that branch. That branch could have fruits growing from it, whereas this branch could only have flowers right now. But they both root all the way back into the trunk and then back into the roots of the tree, you know. So they both have that purpose, and they're basically both one and the same. Because yes, we can see all greenery when we're looking at it from a bird's eye view, and when we're looking at it from the roots, you know, we can just see all of the brown. But when we look at it from head on, we can see that both the trunk and the branches and the brown and the roots are as much of the tree as the greenery. There's no separate, and I see emergence happening for you guys. So let's pull your oracle cards. Pile. Do you know what I was saying about the book being chucked in the air? The back of the deck, you literally have 10 of fire, and she's burning notes. Because when we burn, we alchemize. It's like the energy is transformed into something else. With the 10 of fire here being the 10 of wands, it's almost like I need to put something down and look at it from a different perspective. Pile number 3, please, spirit guides. Pile number 3, messages from the earth element. We have unfinished symphony. Pile number 3. Pile number 3. We have yin. Pile number 3, messages. Oh, we have here and now. And we have past, future, and she's sitting on the egg in the middle. And the back of the deck, we have blessed. Yeah, with you may be seeing 22 a lot. Those numbers, you may be seeing 22 a lot. I'm looking there, and we've got 2 in the middle as well. On the yin card, you may be seeing that number a lot because I see you guys. You're looking at something deeper, you're looking at something differently. You're literally being handed completely different lenses. You're looking at life through a completely different lens, or something's being tailored, or frequency is being altered for you to look at life differently. And I think maybe ways you looked, and you may have seen a certain pathway, you're going to look at it differently. Where you once saw a block, you're going to be learning to look at it differently. I see a lot evolving. I see a lot of shifting over the next 2 years. And honestly, guys, the message here with the yin card being in the middle is literally to surrender. We have past and future here and now. That I feel like you guys are being taken to maybe a different paradigm, or you're aligning with a different paradigm, or being taken on a different journey. Maybe even to bring in results of something that you might have wanted to even manifest. You could have asked or tried to align with something or manifested something in, and I feel like this may be part of the journey, and that's where you're being taken to, and that's where everything's transpiring. And with unfinished symphony here, it's like, how do I put this into words? Again, it's like I'm writing a book, but I'm looking at it from one perspective. But if I bring somebody else in, they can show me it from a different perspective again. And it's like 2 heads are better than 1 then. Especially when I've wrote so many books on my own and I've looked at it from that lens this whole time. It'll be cool to align with somebody else and see it from somebody else's perspective. Or if you've always read books and you've always looked to teachers and other people to teach you something, maybe you're being called to take that journey alone and really tap into what you connect to and take a look at what you feel is right, and maybe be a bit more skeptical of what it is you're taking in, so that you can see it from your own lens and take off the lenses, whichever way it is, because there's a lot bunched in here. I feel like it's going to be different for all of you. And when I tap into this pile, there's a little bit more brain fog, because I feel like right now you may be just feeling a little bit like, what is going on? Everything feels upside down. I feel like I've gone into Wonderland, or you may be feeling like you've gone into the Matrix or something like that. You may be feeling that way, and it tends to happen that way when we go on an ascension. But you're literally flipping to the other side. You're literally tailoring your frequency to see things from a different perspective. I also feel like mediumship, or just seeing spirit around, may be starting to become quite strong for you. I say that because Luna is literally staring in the doorway, literally staring there, and her ears are up, and physically, in the physical world, there is nothing in the doorway. But Luna is staring. So that's one thing that I would say, is that it might be that psychic gifts are breaking that before you were like, no, I don't believe in that, or don't think that can happen, And I'm just being called to say, be open to the unknown and surrender, so pile 3, that is yours. That is your pile. I really hope that you enjoyed the reading. It didn't go the way I expected. There was a little bit of brain fog, so I hope I was able to explain that in the right way that made sense to you guys. I tend to find when we are learning to surrender and not have all the answers. Spirit breadcrumb and will talk in a bit of a riddle when it comes through, which is probably why I feel a bit confused as to what I passed on, but hopefully it hits right for you guys, and hopefully it made sense for you guys. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hit the thumbs up, comment down below if you did. The link will be in the description to everybody else's videos and the different elements if you're drawn there too. I'm sending you guys lots of love. I hope you have a beautiful morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in my next video. So thank you guys for watching.